People used to treat me like I was nothing, but that day, handcuffed and surrounded by officers, I learned just how powerful nothing could be. Helena Oliveira, a distinguished black federal judge, stood before a storm of mockery and disdain on a routine gas station stop. The officers, Mendes and Cardoso, laughed dismissively, brandishing their authority like a weapon against someone whose life was built on the very justice they perverted. This was not just another life-altering moment. It was a brutal realization of systemic racism, an immediate reminder of the chasm that still divides respectability and reality. Spectators filmed my humiliation. I felt a mixture of disbelief and quiet confidence wash over me. I refused to be a victim. I demanded my rights, insisting they recognize who I was. My strength, however, met only skepticism and sarcasm. But the moment I asked for a phone, it marked the beginning of my redemption arc. I called Judge Ricardo Montero, my voice steady as I laid bare the indignity I faced. Instantly, the atmosphere shifted. The bravado of those officers crumbled under the weight of my identity. Once uncuffed, I faced the cameras, determined to convey a message of accountability in that chaotic moment. Public outrage surged online, igniting a firestorm of change. What happened to me shouldn't happen to anyone, but I'm glad it did. It wasn't just about me any longer. I had the opportunity to spark a reckoning. As I turned trauma into a driving force for justice, I would not only unearth the layers of prejudice, but would establish a new narrative for those who would follow. After all, true change begins when we refuse to be silenced. You think you're above the law, don't you, Judge Oliveira? Officer Mendes sneered, his voice thick with condescension as he tightened the cuffs around her wrists. Tecna Helena stood there, steady but seething, the familiar hum of the gas station illuminating the chaos. I'm not above the law, Mendes. I uphold it. Now unhand me. Is that right? Cardoso chimed in, rolling his eyes. What's next? Gonna call your buddies in the courthouse? He gestured to the gathering crowd, phones out, capturing the moment. Just doing my job, ma'am, Mendes replied mockingly. Care to show us your badge, or do you want to just keep pretending you're someone important? With a deep inhale, she locked eyes with Deputy Torres, who lingered at the edge, torn between duty and moral instinct. This isn't right, he muttered under his breath, but the others drowned out his hesitation. Don't bother Helena, Cardoso taunted, leaning in closer, his breath sour. They won't believe you. You're just a judge in cuffs now. Just one call and you'll see how wrong you are, she asserted, her voice solid yet simmering.
Tack! What, you gonna call the Chief Justice? Mendes laughed derisively. Go ahead! I'm sure he'll just love to be woken up for this nonsense.
But beneath the mockery, Helena pressed her phone to her ear, steely resolve cutting through her humiliation. Judge Montero, this is Judge Oliveira. I need your help. The flicker of recognition rippled through the officers' smirks, faces blanching. The atmosphere shifted, the tension magnified as they grappled with their blunder. The power imbalance began to tilt as Helena's dignity and strength pierced through the chains of their prejudice. A reckoning set in motion. The rain drummed steadily on the pavement outside the police station, a fitting backdrop for the storm brewing inside. Helena Oliveira stood, handcuffed, feeling the weight of every mocking sneer from the officers surrounding her. Each word from Officer Mendes cut deeper, their disdain for her professional status palpable in the air. She held her head high, but inside, a quiet frustration simmered. The onlookers recorded, their faces a mix of curiosity and sympathy, capturing this moment of brutality. Show me your ID, Judge, Mendes spat, his voice laced with sarcasm. She felt the eyes on her, knowing they saw not the respected figure she embodied, but a caricature of a criminal. The disbelief twisted her stomach. Had they forgotten their oaths, their duty to serve and protect? The jeering faded into a distant hum. She Henning. This wasn't just about her. It was about every black person who had suffered indignities in silence. With a deep breath, she demanded her phone, seeking a thread of dignity. Helena dialed Judge Ricardo Montero, feeling an unexpected calm wash over her as she recounted the situation. The shift in energy was instantaneous. The bravado of the officers trembled, uncertainty crackling like static in the air. As she hung up, anticipation sizzled. This was no longer her moment of humiliation. Maybe, just maybe, it was a beginning, a stepping stone towards something larger. Helena looked at the cameras, their lenses capturing not just her pain, but a flicker of defiance. She'd had enough. Perhaps this was the moment where her quiet suffering transformed into an anthem for justice. Helena took a deep breath, her heart steadying as the cold metal of the cuffs dug into her wrists. "You think this is a joke?" she asked calmly, meeting the eyes of Officer Mendes, whose smirk faltered. The chaos around her faded, clarity rising within like a tide. She had the power of her position. Her voice was no longer a whisper. "I demand a phone call," she stated, her confidence cutting through the air. Mendes scoffed, but before he could respond, the officer beside him hesitated, uncertainty flickering in his gaze. "You really should listen," Deputy Torres chimed in, his voice betraying his discomfort. Tie with her phone pressed to her ear, Helena explained, "Judge Ricardo Montero, I'm at the station. I need your help." The shift in atmosphere was palpable. She noticed the officers exchanging nervous glances, the bravado that had previously animated them, now waning. "Hang tight, Helena," the voice on the other end replied, urgency weaving through his words. As she hung up, dread washed over the officers. They knew she wasn't just a judge. She was a beacon of integrity. Moments later, the cuffs were unclasped. "This isn't over," Helena told the cameras and spectators, her tone unwavering. "Accountability is essential. Change needs to happen." When social media exploded with outrage, her words resonated. The public rallied, igniting conversations about justice and accountability, small victories that deepened her resolve. A fire sparked within her, promising the beginning of a much-needed comeback against the injustice she'd faced. Taken, Helena Oliveira felt the sting of humiliation as she stood there, handcuffed and surrounded by the sneering faces of Officers Mendes and Cardoso. The early morning light filtered in from the gas station, illuminating the injustice of the moment that had spiraled out of control. She clutched her phone tightly, fighting back the rush of emotions, aware that onlookers were filming, capturing her indignity for the world to see. "Look at you," Mendes mocked. "A judge, huh? You don't look like one." Laughter erupted from his partner, sending another wave of shame crashing over her. But beneath the humiliation burning in her chest, a cold resolve began to form. "I'd like to make a phone call," she declared, her voice steady amidst the chaos. Credized Judge Ricardo Montero, the atmosphere shifted. Panic flickered in their eyes. The bravado of the officers began to falter. "You're about to find out who you're messing with," she thought fiercely. On the other end, Montero's voice turned sharp with concern. A silent triumph glinted in Helena's eyes. The grim satisfaction of knowing justice was on her side. Moments later, the cuffs fell away, and Helena straightened, drawing herself up to reclaim her dignity. She faced the crowd, her heart racing as she addressed them, her words imbued with power. "This is about accountability," she said, her voice carrying a weight that demanded respect. The crowd stirred, murmurs of solidarity bubbling among them. As the officers' arrogance crumbled, the world outside erupted with outrage, their past misdeeds surfacing like roaches exposed to light. The weight of public scrutiny descended upon Mendes and Cardoso, their downfall whispered eagerly across social media. Meanwhile, Helena stood taller, a beacon of resilience in the face of oppression. Her journey from victim to champion of justice was just beginning, each step forward a testament to strength and resolve against systemic racism. And as she walked away from the gas station, she felt the tide of change surge behind her, foreshadowing an inevitable reckoning that would echo through the halls of justice. Allergies. As I look back on that turbulent day, the sting of humiliation still lingers, yet it's overshadowed by a newfound resilience. Handcuffed and disrespected, I felt the weight of an unjust system pressing down on me. But in that moment of despair, I discovered my strength. I reached out not just for help, but to assert my identity as a judge, as a Black woman, and a powerful voice against injustice. The aftermath was profound. The incident became a catalyst for change, igniting conversations about systemic racism within law enforcement. People rallied behind my story, and together we pushed for accountability. I learned that even in our darkest times, we can transform our pain into purpose. Take. I wonder, do you think I went too far? What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Have you ever found yourself in a situation like mine where authority was misused? I invite you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Let's engage in this important conversation about justice, power, and the resilience it takes to stand up against injustice.